Okay, it's in. Yeah. Okay, I'm just going to start here. The first mitzvah, and basically, it's going to be. I don't know how to say it. It's going to be rough going, and not. I don't know if it's. I can't say rough, but more in the sense of. I don't know how to say it. More, it's rough. More in the sense that it's very different, and it requires different skills than we actually were taught. So I have no clue of I have no clue how it's going to go. I'm going to try it, and we'll see. Okay. Hamitzvah Rishona. He hatzivui asher tzivonu. Okay, mitzvah rishoni hatziva shetzivonu lahamin hu Elohus. So there is a mitzvah to believe in God. Okay, that's what it says. Lahamin hu Elohus, divinity, God, the idea of God. Okay. Let's just talk a little bit about this, and then we'll go into some of the words or whatever it is. Okay. So there's a mitzvah to believe in God, or that there is a God, and and the Rambam goes about defining what this belief of divinity entails. And he goes like this. He says, V'hu shenamin sheyesh ila v'siba. Now, to be frank with you, these are philosophical words that were used in let's say Aristotelian philosophy, medieval philosophy, which is based on I'm using these words, and I'm using these words, and we'll see in Moreh Nevuchim. Okay, so Shuhu Shinamin Shie Shom, and this is the very odd Shom that the Ram used, which to play in the Arabic. No, God is not over here, over there. It means that there exists such an idea. Shie Shom. Ilo v'sibo. Now, who hapoyel l'chol nimsos? There's an ilo v'sibo, and there's a poel called nimsos, and this is what he's defining what divinity is. And then he says, "V'amar yisalo nuich Hashem Elokecha." So what's ilo v'sibo? We'll see later that it means that he created the world. Ila v'siba is the way you construct things. We'll talk about this as we go on, okay? I just want to get us just into it a little bit. Then it continues, Ram continues, who poyel kol nimsos. And there's something above and beyond that. Whatever this is a very strange thing, poyel l'kol nimsos. A very strange phrase. I can't say that I understand what the difference between Elo and Seba are. And it could be just saying it for emphasis. But God is Ha Elo, and also He is the Elo of everything. The Rambam in Hilchos Yisodei Torah Perek Aleph, and in Pirush HaMishnah in Perek Yud, where he talks about the Yesodus Emunah. In both of these places, he defines divinity or God in a much more broader perspective than what he does here. He just says a few words, Ila V'Siba and Poel Kol Anim Sois. As far as Ila V'Siba, the Rambam in adds in these places that the Kakodesh Baruch Hu Hamotzi Rishon. In Mishater, Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, Leida Sheisha Motzi Rishon. In Pirush Mishnah, Mesechah Sanhedrin, in Perek Yud, V'hu Sheisha Motzui B'Shleimus Oifani HaMetzias. There's a Motzui. The Rambam over here does not say explicitly what God was the Motzi Rishon, but you can learn this from the general context, because since he's Ilu Akol, so by definition, how could there have been? How could he be an Ilu Akol, an Ilas Akol, if he wasn't the Motzi Rishon? In other words, it's assumed here and not said explicitly. That's what I think. This phrase in Pirush HaMishnah, Sheisha Motzi B'Shleimus Oifani HaMetzius, I'm not going to discuss it because it's beyond my abilities, but I think you might have a clue about this. I'm just giving you Ma'amokim. You look in Moreh Nevuchim, Chelik Aleph Perek Nun Zayin. Now, the more interesting thing is the second one, which he has. This is the Poel Anim Soyos. What does it mean? We do know what the Ram says in Mishnah Torah and Perush HaMishnah. It's not clear that he's saying the same thing, but he says something very similar. He says something both in Mishnah Torah and Perush HaMishnah that he stresses that the world, the existence of the world, depends upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that he also says, we'll see, both now read the both in Mishnah Torah and in Pirush HaMishnah. In Mishnah Torah he says, in Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, V'chol nimsoyim min hashamayim v'oretz u'ma shebeineim lo nimsu ela memitas himotzoi v'im ya'ale al adas she'ein kol animsoyim milvadoi mitzuyin hu levado yeh motzoi v'lo yevatel hu levitulam aval animsoyim tzicheloi. It means the whole world, all the aliyah, the universe, depends upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, his existence is independent of the universe. That's what he says in Mishnah Torah. and Pirush HaMishnah in Perek Yud in Sanhedrin, he says, Ubo kiyum mitziusam, umimenu nimshach lohem hakiyum. It seems like double talk. They exist only because of him. V'chule, v'chol ma, shezulosei min hascholim, kloima hamalochim v'gome hagalgalim, that which any of the turning of the wheels of the galgalim or the malochim, even they exist only because God exists. They stress that their existence depends upon God's existence. We don't know here what he's saying. Is this assumed that he's going further? So what does it mean, poil? He's doing something. In the two places, in Mishnah Torah, the Ram stresses something new, and that I think is an Elohei, that the Rabbeinu Shalom turns the wheels of the spheres, Hagalgalim, whatever that they are. The Ram also in the Nevuchim does this. Here, he doesn't say if he Poilam Soyes is just the kingdom of the world or somehow runs the world, makes the wheels go. We have no clue what he's saying over here. Here, it's you can only guess, but we do know what he says in Pirush HaMishnah and in Mishnah Torah, because he's not explicit on what it means. Poilam Kol Nim Soyes. Okay, next. Now, I'd like to now add something over here. Now, if you look at the structure of the Rambam has halachas, and you say that Torah from Perek Aleph. One second. From Perek Aleph, halacha Aleph, you say that Torah through halacha Vav, and halacha Vav, he says that the mitzvah of Leidà sheisham Elokim, sheisham motzu, it's Elokim, is basically explained. The mitzvah includes everything from halacha Aleph to halacha Hey. So in halacha Hey, he has a whole new idea, and that is Hamotzi Azeh Hu Elokah Ha'olam. Some relationship between God and the world, Elokah Ha'olam. Adain Kol Haaretz. They're very, very, let's say, cryptic phrases. We don't know what the Ram is saying. Elokah Ha'olam and Adain Haaretz. And then, after that, he goes on. He says, Vuhu Hamani. It's due to his omnipotence. No end, and to his koyach, but koyach shein lo hefsek. He's talking about this. He's the manig. He's the one that runs and turns the wheels. Shagalgo seve tamid, and it doesn't assume that that something in order. It's against the law of nature that we know of inertia. That once something is moving, it will move indefinitely until another force stops it. Here, the assumption is that it will not keep turning, will only keep turning unless if God keeps turning it. Now, so there he's interested here in Perek Hey, Aleph Halacha Hey, he's interested in a new concept. Not only is the that the universe is dependent on God's existence, but he is the manig olam. That's it said, Hamanig Hagalgal. And because he controls the world explicit, because the he is the goyrem of the sivuv of the galgal. Is okay. Yeah. He's the goyrem of sivuv galgal. Okay. Here, if you look at Aloha Hey, the words are crying out. We have to understand what Elokah Ha'olam, what is Adoin Ha'oret, Adoin Kol Ha'oretz, and there's Manik. He's introducing three different things. Manik, we understand that he's responsible for turning of the wheels. Adoin, a priori, you would have said that it means the following, that the world belongs to God. Adin is a type, is a kinyan, like an Adin with an Eved. This you find in Sefer Nevuchim, in Cheli Beis Perek Lamed, V'Oma Bohem Kainei L'Mishloi, someone who rules the world, owns it. He's called a Kainei. V'Omar Bohem L'Mishloi. Yis L'Mishloi Yis'ala Alehem. Ki Mishol Ha'odoin Al Avodov. Kinyan is another way of saying Moishel. Ulezeh Nikra Adein Kol Haaretz. And that's why God is called Adein Kol Haaretz. Ve'odoin lo yiyeh odoin elo kishiyeh lo kinyan. Okay? So it's Kinyan and Moishel, and he's calling in Merin Levuchim, he's explaining this concept of Don Koloretz. So that's what I would have said a priori, that he's trying to say over here, that God owns and rules the world. We don't understand what that means. And then he actually runs the universe and turns the wheels. Okay. Until this point, everything is simple. These few words we don't understand 100%, but I would have said that since the Rambam the Nevuchim uses this phrase and explains it the way he does, that this is what's going on here also. Okay, now I'm gonna make a statement. And the statement, you'll see why I'm making it. The Rambam in Mishnah Torah does not specifically bring the idea that the idea of hashkocha, that God is mashkiach on the world. I'm just going to make a statement, and I'm not going to give you Ma'amar Kaimus, and I don't want to get involved in this, okay? We understand hashkocha, that God somehow is pulling the strings, okay? I would only suggest, in other words, even to the two issues. What is hashkocha? And is hashkocha part of this mitzvah, or does it have anything to do with the mitzvah, okay? So, it's very possible, and then I just wanted to say it, I don't want to talk about it, just give you Ma'amar Kaimus. If you're interested, you look at it. That the Rambam describes or defines hashkocha in a very different way than we understand hashkocha. We are taught that hashkocha is that God's pulling the strings, okay? You look in the Yisodis Hadas, Yisod, I think it's Asiri and Achad also, 10 and 11, the Ram has Yisod that God is aware of what's going on in the world. He's not completely separated himself from the world after creation. Okay. And then we have another Yisod, which is Yisod of Schar V'Yoinish, which you look in Mo Nevuchim, and in that Yisod, in Mo Nevuchim, in Perek Gimel, Perek Nun Aleph. Also, you see somewhat the idea of hashkocha there, but it's very limited to the ovaries. Now I'm not getting involved in all this, but we don't know in Rambam's Schar V'Yoinish is kichol derach of mishpat, that man, and that's his fifth. You look there, and also in the Nevuchim he has 5 theories about how the world is run, and the Rambam seems to accept the fifth is that the world is run on Schar V'Yoinish. But that's not hashkocha that man is put in a certain place. It's only limited Schar V'Yoinish, and here it's I don't know if this is called hashkocha, but whatever it is, comes the Radvaz in Shalat Shuvas Radvaz, and this is all an introduction to this concept. The Radvaz in Chelik Vov, Siman Beis Alofim, Kuf Tezayin, that he seems the import you can infer from his words, the implication of his words, is that the Rambam is adding Adon Kol Haaretz hashkocha. So what he's doing is adding on a new idea in the idea of Leida Sheisham Eloka. Okay. And the reason why I missed the idea is that I could have imagined that the Ram is doing it, but it becomes a little more difficult because the idea of hashgacha, the way we normally understand hashgacha, doesn't necessarily exist in the Rambam. That's why I prefaced the Radva's remarks. It is also true that the Radak uses this expression in terms of hashgacha. The Radak in Yoshua Gimel, Pasuk Yud Aleph, he talks about Arein Habris, Havaya, Adoin Kol Oretz, Adoin Habris Kim, or something, I don't know, Adoin Kol Oretz. And he talks about the Hashgacha in the Adoin Kol Oretz. So, if you're going to accept this Radvaz and what Adoin Kol Oretz means in terms of Radak, you add the idea of Hashgacha to this mitzvah, but I'm pointing out the difficulties because we don't know if the Rambam has this idea of Hashgacha. And that the word Adoin Kol Haaretz in Moreh Nevuchim is probably means something else. He means that he's a Moshel or Adoin, a Moshel, and they were avodim kinyan, the Kainei Akel. However, I want to add that even if we could deny this in Rambam, the Sefer Chinuch has this idea in Mitzvah Chof Hei, V'asher Omar Asher Hotzei Sicho. So he's explaining something. We'll see. I just want to point something out on the side, that the discussion that God took us out of Mitzrayim has nothing to do with the mitzvah according to the Rambam. He doesn't mention all, there's no reference to it. I assume it's only identifying God. However, comes the chinuch and uses this to define the mitzvah, Mitzrayim. And he says it's hashgacha. The chinuch in Mitzvah Chof Hei, V'asher Omar Asher Hotzei Sicho V'goymer Loimer Shelo Yifte Levavchem Lokachas Inyan Tseichem Me'avdus Mitzrayim U'Makes HaMitzrim Derech Mikra El De'u Shanoichi Hu Shehoitzeisi Eschem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Eschem Bechefetz Uv'Hashgacha. So the chinuch l'chor is not a guy to anything over here. He's taking the word Asher Hotzei Sicha very seriously, and he says it means hashgacha. Amid Hashem, next time, I hope, I believe that we'll talk about the Ramban Chumash also, we'll see. What I want to just add is you find a similar thing in the Ramban. Yeah, here it is. But he does an amazing thing. It's in Pashash Yisro, that's the way it's set up. Hatoelis Horishon Hu B'Mitzvos V'Hu Lahamin Kiyesh Elokah Shalit Al Kol HaNimtzos. So he controls. He is the manig. He is the adoin, shalit. I'll call him soyos. Lahagiyom el asher yachboitz. His whim. Ushehu yibalbel hamado hamisudo me'akechovim lehetiv uledovk lehetiv ledvekim boy. In other words, the world, he assumes, is going by the mazolos. But the Rebbeinu Shem changes the mazolos for those that he loves, or those that David HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See, here he's talking about the relationship between this mitzvah and hashgacha. Clearly, it's part of the mitzvah. V'zehu ma'asher omar anochi Hashem Elokecho asher otzeischem eretz Yisrael beis avodim וכבר נסבויה שזה המיימו הוא מצווה וכו'. So this is okay. But it's not clear at all in the Rambam if this is the approach you should have. But it certainly is in the Chinuch and the Rabag, and we'll see about the Ramban. Now, next. Now I want to introduce to you like this. HaMitzvah Rishona, Hu Atzivui Asher Tzivonu. And the Ram uses the Arabic of Al-Amar, Hatzivui. Al-Amar is a bona fide command. It's the commandments: eat, don't eat, sleep, stand, something. And this is this mitzvah. It's a clear command to believe in God. There's another type of mitzvah which is not a clear command. Ram talks about it later and Sefer Mitzvas. For Mitzvah Tzadi, he has a few mitzvahs, including mitzvahs of Tumah, Hafos Nedorim. There's no tzivui, it's just the Torah has a parsha which tells you certain things, and dinim, whatever it is, and the assumption in the Torah is you should act according to the parsha. Here is an amazing thing. The Torah only says, it's a statement. It's identifying the God who's giving you the Aseh Adibos. And we assume that the first Dibor is not only a statement that God is making, that's in the way he's identifying himself, but comes to the fact the Ram says it's an Amar. There's a clear tzivui for this belief. It was an amazing pshat and posuk. Who would have said the Hashem Elokecha asher tzeischem eretz Yisrael is a mitzvah aseh, a tzivui b'meforish to believe in God. Okay. In the Arabic is the hey yediyah. What it says over here is the commandment. And it's clear as a tzivui, the tzivui, ha tzivui. Next. So we'll have to understand how and why there's a mitzvah. And the importance of the word tzivui in Rambam is because the Ram says very clearly in Shiur Shmini, you see the way he introduces it, that mitzvahs are tzivuyim, not stories. And Hashem Elokecha, Asher Tzesicho is a tzivuy. Is going to answer this question as we proceed. But I just wanted you to be aware, you can't answer a question if the question doesn't exist. And the question is, the Rambam has, clearly said, that there's a mitzvah here. Okay. Now, want to eat something, and this is a parenthetical remark, and I'm not going to talk about this more here. But the Rambam, at the end of the second parak of Shmona Prokim, says something astounding, amazing, but the emes is, after you think about it, it's very mistaber. For example, you have an involuntary reflex. Okay? You can't imagine there's a mitzvah about it because you can't control it. So, when you talk about thought processes, what you think, you can control what you do. But, people, obsessive, compulsive, whatever, there are things that come to their mind they can't control. So it becomes interesting. How could there be a mitzvah to believe something when belief is a thought process which man, how can he be forced to have in mind something which doesn't work in his mind? But that's not here for us to talk about now. It's just a ma'amokim if you're interested. Next. Now, now, another thing's happening over here. The Ram has a very strange Arabic expression. It's atakad in the Arabic. That's the way, well, in the Judeo-Arabic, he writes it in Hebrew letters. And it's not only the that does it, Rav Sadi Goin in his Minyan Mitzvah also does it. And the translation in Ibn Tibin is Lahamin, or Bahamonas, we'll see. And Ibn Eoiv, also like that. The idea means a very strong and convinced emuna, a strong belief. You can look in the, if you have the Sefer, you see Amira, We should look there at HaOS 16. Relates the mitzvah as beliefs. It means knowledge. It's not belief. The in Siyunim in Frankel's Rambam says the literal translation of the word atakad is lios meshuchna bamitas unechonusoi shalei. Yediyah brura. You look at in Shirish Aleph in Ha'olah 83, where he writes, Deya usva shenikva'o b'lev ha'adam. It's carved into in like you carve into a stone. B'nefesh bi'oifon yisaydi umiteich hechrach. It's a clear belief and a knowledge. The Rambam in the Bukhim discusses Yirusiyach the Kad. My impression is in Chelik Aleph, Reish Perek Nun, is you're so convinced of an idea that you're ready to have a debate about the issue, and you are clear, you're very sure you're going to win. It's Beseder. So I assume there's no difference. The question, what you stress and how you, it's a firm belief and it's the idea, it's a type of belief that you're ready to defend, whatever it is. It's not stam that a person says, I believe in God and everything is all over. You know, it's and the he says at the Karabuvia, it's those have told me that it means in the Arabic it's a firm belief in divinity or in God or in deity, in the existence of God. Shoino mi mitzvahs aseh leda shei shom eloka leda. You say the Torah in the Protei Mitzvahs, the beginning of the Torah, leda shei shom eloka. Okay. Here, the thing, I think the golf pointed this out once when we're learning. I'm not sure what the significance is. the Pashtus, the Yud Gimel Ikrim in Rambam, but some of the Ikrim are not only Ikra Das, they're also Mitzvas Aseh, and this is one of them. We'll see when we get to the second mitzvah also, that it's a second one. Okay. Okay. Now, let's do something. I'm doing with trepidation. I'm just going to try to explain what Ela and Siba are. Because they're very difficult phrases. Okay. And I'm going to show you how the Rambam in Nevuchim basically goes about to explain these phrases. Ram writes here, Namin sheesh shom ilo v'siba. The Rambam in Nevuchim, this you can look at Barichus. It's kedai to look at it. Chelik Aleph, Perik Samach Tes, explains that you're supposed to believe Shom Ila V'Siba, which includes four things. Ila and Siba, he uses those words, includes four things. Now, first I'll start with the more difficult thing, and then he makes it a little bit simpler by giving practical examples. The first thing is Hachomer Shemimenu Hadovo Noitzar, the material which whatever you want to create is created from. The second thing is Atzua, the form that it's the idea to create a certain form of something. There's an idea to create something, and that's the tzura. Then there's hapoel, is the act of creation. And then there's hatachlis, it's the purpose of the thing. So you have four things. You have the material, the idea of what you're going to create, the actual creative process, and then the purpose of the creation. That's the word Ela V'Siba. And then he gives the example to this, a chair. The chair is made from wood. That's the material. The form is an idea how you make a chair. You have to think about it. You have to know. You have to have, you have to have an organized in mind. How are you going to do this? That is the form. Then there's the poil, and that is the putting the pieces of wood together to make a chair. And the purpose of the chair is a mokom l'sheves, a place to sit. Now, since it comes out from what he says there, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and he talks about in the three things, in the tzura, the pu'ula and the tachlis. But l'chayra, it's clear that he also means the chayma, because the materials that the world created, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, mehed the muchlot, which is the fourth you say the adas, which you see the Rama added later from on the Vuchim, we'll talk about it, but it means the world is created yesh me'ayin, so it means God also created the material. So all of the four halakim God created. So it means Ela v'Siba means God created the world. So if Ela v'Siba means God created the world, when you come to the next discussion, the Poel calling him Soyim, that doesn't mean that he's creating the world. It must mean something else. The Rebbeinu the Ela v'Siba, which he explains in the Vuchim, is he created the world. So the question is, what's next? The Poel Metzias of Kol Nim Soyis, then is not the creation of the world, because it's an Elo, that's Ela v'Siba, as we explained. And the Lashon Poel Metzias is also in Lashon Hoiva, it's not in Lashon Ova. God's doing something now and constantly. So it means either he's poil for kiyum oilam or he's manigas oilam. Something's happening over here, and it's clear that the beginning of the Ela v'Siba is God created the world, and now poil kol misoyim, he runs the world, or the world's existence depends upon him, and more than that, he runs it, or just the existence doesn't say what the poil is. Poil is Pash is doing something. We don't know. It's not clear at all in Rambam what he's doing. It's also clear here in the Arabic, he says al pa'al, he says with the hey yediyah that he is the poil. He is hasiba hayichida. Explain this. And we explained this already, that we could the other place the Ram explains that the brothers are Kimo Olam and Manig Olam. We're not sure over here what this means. Does that mean everything or part of it? A short point. The Rambam in Perik Aleph does something amazing. Halacha Vov. He says that the Ika of Anoich Hashem Elokecha and the Lav Lo Elohim Achim Aponai, we have to understand the Lav means to have there's another deity equivalent to God, Chas Shalom, is the Ika Godel Shakol Toliboy. Truth is, there's something called Avodah Zarah in Hilchos Avodah Zarah. That's bowing down to objects, making the sun, the moon, whatever it is, that they're going to, you're vying for to help, with God or whatever it is. But there's something beyond Avodah Zorah, which the Ram calls Ika Godesh HaKol Tolei Boy, and that's the Anoich Hashem Elokecho and the Lo Yeh Elohim Achem Aponoi, to have another deity. And that is the Ika Godesh HaKol Iponoi. That's beyond Avodah Zorah. That's the Hilchos Yisodei Torah. Okay. I think this was enough for now. I suggest we pick this up on Mitzvah Hashem next week a little bit more. But there's a lot of work over here, and you have to just immerse yourself into what the Ram's doing. And Mitzvah Hashem will pick up next week. B'li neder.